The snow came down fast that evening, covering the streets in a thick white blanket. The wind howled like it wanted to push everything off the road, and the cold was sharp enough to make anyone regret stepping outside. He had been driving home from work, tired from the day, when the storm suddenly got worse. The snow was falling so heavily that he could barely see a few feet in front of him. Each turn of the wheel made his car slip slightly, and his heart beat faster with worry. He knew the storm could get dangerous if he didn't pay attention. As he drove slowly, keeping his hands tight on the steering wheel, he noticed something unusual by the side of the road. A car was stuck half buried in snow, its tires spinning uselessly. At first he thought maybe someone else would stop to help, but as he got closer he saw a woman standing beside it, shivering and clearly struggling. Her coat was thin and she seemed small against the vast white landscape. He didn't hesitate. He parked his car safely nearby, grabbed his coat, and ran toward her despite the cold cutting into his face. "Are you okay?" he asked as he reached her. His voice was calm, but inside he was aware of the storm pressing down on both of them. I don't know," she replied, her voice shaky. "I tried to start the car, but it won't move. I don't know what to do." He nodded and looked at her car. The wheels were spinning, snow packed tightly beneath them, and the engine made a frustrated, weak sound. "Don't worry. I can help. We'll get this moving," he said. He didn't ask why she was out in this storm or what she was doing alone. All he could see was that she needed help, and that was enough for him to act. He got down on the snowy ground, trying to clear the snow from around the tires. His fingers went numb almost instantly, but he ignored the pain. After a few minutes of hard work, he managed to push the car slightly. "Now try it," he said, standing back. She got inside and turned the key. Slowly the tires found traction, and the car inched forward. She stepped out, relief washing over her face, and he helped guide it back onto the road. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. She smiled, though it was small and tired. "I don't know what I would have done without you." He shook his head. "It's nothing. Anyone would have done the same." He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, even though she clearly saw him as a hero. He had always been like that. Helping others felt natural, not something to be celebrated. The storm was relentless, and it was clear she couldn't drive safely in this weather. "Do you want to come somewhere warm?" he asked. "I'm not far from a shelter, or we can wait out the storm in my car." She hesitated. Her eyes searched his face for a moment, then she nodded. "I guess that's the safest option." They walked back to his car, the snow crunching under their boots. He helped her in, and they drove slowly to a small nearby diner that stayed open late for travelers. Inside it was warm and smelled of coffee and bread. The lights were soft, giving the place a comforting glow. She sighed in relief and sank into a chair, rubbing her hands to warm them. He ordered 2 hot chocolates, and they sat in silence for a moment, listening to the storm raging outside. He didn't ask her about her life or her work. It didn't matter. Right now they were just 2 people caught in the same snowstorm, one offering help, the other accepting it. "You didn't have to stop," she said quietly, almost embarrassed. "Most people would have just kept driving." "I know," he replied with a shrug. "But it doesn't feel right to leave someone in trouble. No one deserves that." She looked at him, really looked, as if trying to understand why he had done it. There was something in his eyes that spoke of honesty and kindness. "You're different," she said finally, a small smile breaking through. He laughed softly, shaking his head. "I'm just a normal guy. I do what I can." They talked for a while, mostly about small things, the weather, the diner, even the silly things they remembered from their childhood winters. The storm outside was harsh, but inside the diner, the warmth made it feel safe. He noticed she seemed tired and worried, but there was a quiet strength in her too. She was polite, careful with her words, and thoughtful. It was easy to forget how dangerous the storm outside really was. Time passed, and the snow continued to fall. He knew he couldn't let her stay out here too long, and she probably didn't want to impose. "I can give you a ride somewhere safer," he offered. She shook her head. "No, that's okay. I think I should wait until the storm slows down. I don't want to trouble you further." "You're not troubling me," he said. "Really, I don't mind." She smiled, looking at him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. There was something about his calm, steady presence that made her feel safe. Something rare in a world that often seemed too fast and harsh. For the first time in hours, maybe even days, she felt a little relief from the storm. Not just outside, but inside too. He noticed her shivering again and offered her his extra scarf. "Here, this might help a bit," he said. She accepted it quietly, pulling it around her shoulders. "Thanks," she said simply, and he saw that her smile now had warmth beyond mere politeness. The hours went by, and the snowstorm eventually began to ease. Streetlights flickered through the falling snow, and the road started to show faint tire tracks. She looked outside and sighed. "I should try to get going. I don't want to miss whatever I was heading to." "I can walk you to your car," he said. He didn't offer to drive her, just walked beside her to make sure she got there safely. Each step in the snow felt heavier than the last, but he didn't complain. He had made a choice to help, and he would see it through. When they reached her car, she paused, looking at him. "I don't even know your name," she said. He smiled. "Does it matter? Just call me someone who cares." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "That's not an answer, but I guess I understand." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook, writing something down quickly. "Here, in case you ever need to reach me, and thank you." Truly. He took it but didn't open it immediately. "I don't think I'll ever need this," he said. "But thank you for trusting me." The snow around them was starting to melt slightly in the dim evening light, and she finally got into her car. The engine started smoothly this time, and she waved before driving off, leaving behind only tire tracks in the snow. He watched her disappear into the distance, a strange sense of satisfaction warming him despite the cold. He didn't expect anything to come from this encounter. Helping someone in need was enough reward for him. Walking back to his own car, he felt the snow crunch under his boots. The storm was ending, but he knew this night would stay with him for a long time. Not because of the storm, not because of the cold, but because of the brief connection he had made with a stranger, one small act of kindness that made the world a little better, if only for a moment. He got into his car, started the engine, and drove home slowly, the quiet peace of the snow-covered streets filling him with a strange contentment. In his heart, he felt good, not because he expected reward, but because he had done the right thing when it mattered most. Little did he know that this simple act of kindness would soon bring changes to his life that he could never imagine. The next morning, he woke up to the soft glow of sunlight reflecting off the snow outside. The streets were still white, but the storm had passed, leaving a calm quiet over the town. The cold air came through the slightly open window, making him pull the blanket tighter around his shoulders. Even though he had barely slept, his mind kept returning to the woman he had helped the night before. He had no idea why, but something about her presence lingered, as if the snowstorm itself had left a mark. He went about his usual routine, making breakfast and checking his messages. Life had been ordinary for him. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. Helping strangers had never been rare for him, but this encounter felt different. There was a small piece of paper tucked in his coat pocket, the one she had given him. He hadn't looked at it yet, wanting to wait until the moment felt right. Now, holding the small notebook in his hands, he unfolded it slowly. Inside was her number and a short message. "Thank you again. I hope one day I can return the favor. Call me if you need anything." He stared at it for a moment, feeling a mix of curiosity and disbelief. People often said things like this, but very few ever meant them. Still, there was something sincere in the way she wrote it. The day passed slowly. At work, he couldn't focus entirely. Thoughts of her returned again and again. Her gratitude, her smile, the calm way she had accepted help in a dangerous situation. He tried to dismiss it as just the lingering memory of the storm, but deep down he wondered why it had affected him so much. By evening, curiosity got the better of him. He hesitated, then picked up his phone and dialed the number. The phone rang a few times before a warm voice answered. "Hello?" she said, cautious but polite. "Hi, it's me. From the other night," he said. I just wanted to make sure you got home safely." "Oh, yes, thank you. I got home without any trouble," she replied. There was a hint of relief in her voice. "I wasn't sure if I should call, but I'm glad you did." They talked for a while, slowly at first, about simple things, the weather, the snow, even how hard it had been to drive in the storm. The conversation was easy, natural, and neither of them felt awkward. He realized she was kind, intelligent, and surprisingly down to earth. For someone he assumed might have a busy or complicated life, she spoke as if she were just another person trying to get through the day. After some time, she hesitated before speaking again. "I wanted to ask you, would you mind meeting me somewhere tomorrow? I know it's a bit sudden, but I'd like to thank you properly for helping me." He paused. Part of him was cautious, he didn't know her well after all, but another part felt that he should trust this encounter. She had been sincere before, and there was no reason to think otherwise. "Sure," he said finally. "Where should we meet?" They agreed on a small cafe in the center of town. The next day he arrived a little early, the snow now gone but the cold air still crisp. The cafe smelled of baked bread and coffee, a comforting warmth that made him relax instantly. He chose a table near the window, watching the streets slowly fill with people going about their day. She arrived a few minutes later, dressed in a long coat and scarf. Even though she seemed calm, he noticed a subtle tension in her posture, as if she carried responsibilities far heavier than her small frame suggested. She smiled when she saw him. "Hi," she said simply, sliding into the seat across from him. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," he replied. "I just want to make sure you're okay." They ordered coffee and the conversation began lightly, about things like the cafe, their favorite drinks, and the small details of daily life. Slowly, the discussion moved deeper. She asked about his life, his work, and his family. He was honest, not thinking about impressing her or making his life seem more interesting than it was. As they talked, he noticed a quiet confidence in her voice. She was careful with her words, but there was a depth to her thoughts that made him feel as if she had seen more of the world than most people. He found himself listening more than speaking, intrigued by her perspective and the calm way she considered every topic. After a while, she leaned back and said, "You know, it's rare to meet someone so genuinely kind these days. Most people would have just driven past or maybe offered a passing comment. But you helped me without expecting anything. That's something I don't see often." He shrugged lightly. "I guess I just do what feels right. I don't really think about it much." She smiled almost sadly. "That's exactly why it's so special. People rarely act without expecting something in return. You remind me that kindness still exists." There was a pause, a quiet moment where neither of them spoke. Just the faint hum of the cafe and the occasional clink of coffee cups around them. He felt a strange connection with her, something beyond the simple act of helping someone in need. It was as if the storm had brought them together for a reason, and now this meeting was a continuation of that moment. After a few minutes, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "I wanted to give you this," she said, sliding it across the table. "Just a small token of my thanks. You don't have to accept it, but I insist." He hesitated, unsure what it could be. He didn't want gifts or favors. I don't know if I can take this," he said. She smiled gently. "You helped me when I had nothing to give. I just want to give something back. Not because I expect anything, but because I want you to have it. You deserve it." He took the envelope reluctantly and opened it. Inside was a handwritten note and a card. The note expressed her gratitude again, simple words that carried a weight far beyond what he expected. The card contained a message hinting at a life-changing opportunity, a way to improve his life in a meaningful way. He stared at it in disbelief. I don't know what to say," he muttered. "Then don't say anything," she replied softly. "Just know that your actions mattered more than you realize." The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. They continued talking, sharing stories of their childhood, small triumphs, and moments of struggle. He learned that she had worked hard for everything she had, but her life had also given her the chance to help others in ways most people couldn't imagine. He found himself admiring not just her generosity but her humility. She didn't flaunt her achievements or wealth. She simply wanted to make a positive difference. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the cafe, he realized that their conversation had changed something inside him. It wasn't just about the gift or the recognition. It was about being seen, being understood, and realizing that his simple act of kindness had truly mattered to someone else. When it was time to leave, she smiled warmly. "Thank you for meeting me. I know it might have been awkward, but I wanted to make sure you understood how much your help meant." He shook his head. "It wasn't awkward at all. I'm glad we talked." They parted ways outside, the cold evening air brushing against their faces. He watched her walk away, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and hope. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while he felt that something good was coming, something unexpected, but entirely deserved. Walking home, he thought about the snowstorm, the chance encounter, and the quiet moments they had shared. He realized that sometimes life had a way of testing people, not with grand challenges but with small, meaningful moments that revealed the heart of who they were. And in that realization, he felt a quiet gratitude for the storm, for the woman, and for the simple truth that kindness could lead to something far greater than he had ever imagined. That night, he placed the envelope on his desk, looking at it before bed. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. The snowstorm had changed something in his life. Not just because of what she might offer him, but because he had discovered the true value of helping someone without expecting anything in return. And that discovery felt more powerful than any gift he could ever receive. Days passed after their meeting at the cafe, and he returned to his normal routine. Life continued as it always had, work, chores, and quiet evenings at home. But the memory of her stayed with him. Every now and then he would glance at the envelope she had given him, feeling a mix of curiosity and hesitation. He had read her note many times, but the message inside seemed to grow more mysterious each time he looked at it. There was something about it that suggested an opportunity far beyond his ordinary life. But at the same time, it didn't feel like a typical gift. He tried to put it aside, focusing on work and the small tasks that filled his day. But one morning, as he returned home from the grocery store, he found a small, neat package sitting on his doorstep. There was no return address, just his name written carefully on the front. He picked it up cautiously, his curiosity immediately piqued. It wasn't every day that a stranger, especially one he had only met once, sent something like this. Back inside, he placed the package on the table and carefully opened it. Inside was a letter handwritten and folded neatly. He unfolded it slowly, reading the words with growing astonishment. She wrote about her gratitude once again, but this time the tone of the message was different. She explained that she wanted to offer him a chance to change his life, not through money alone, but through guidance, opportunities, and connections that could open doors he had never imagined. He sat back in his chair, staring at the letter. His heart raced, but a part of him was cautious. Could this really be real? Was this some kind of scam? Or was it truly an offer from someone who genuinely wanted to help him? The thought of accepting something so significant from someone he barely knew made him uneasy. Yet the sincerity in her handwriting and the memory of her kind eyes in the cafe told him that this was genuine. After reading the letter several times, he decided to call her. His fingers trembled slightly as he dialed the number. When she answered, her voice was calm and welcoming, but there was an unmistakable energy in it, a sense that something important was about to happen. "I received your letter," he said finally, his voice a mix of caution and excitement. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," she replied softly. "I just want you to know that your kindness that night wasn't something I will ever forget. I want to help you in a way that reflects the impact you had on me. Will you trust me?" There was silence for a moment as he considered her words. He thought about the night of the snowstorm, about how he had helped her without expecting anything, and about the simple satisfaction he had felt in doing the right thing. He realized that this was different. It wasn't a random act of charity. She was offering a real opportunity to improve his life. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Yes, I trust you." The next days were filled with preparation and anticipation. She arranged for him to visit a place that she referred to as a meeting point, where he would be introduced to a new world of possibilities. He had no idea what to expect. His mind raced with questions, but there was also a quiet excitement, a sense that something important was about to unfold. When he arrived at the meeting point, he was surprised to find it was not a formal office or a business location. Instead, it was a small, serene building surrounded by trees and a garden that felt almost like a hidden sanctuary. The atmosphere was calming, and it immediately put him at ease. He was greeted warmly and led inside where she was waiting. "Welcome," she said with a gentle smile. "I'm glad you came." He smiled nervously. "Thank you for having me. I still can't believe this is real," she chuckled softly. "It is real. You just have to open yourself to it. I want you to see that your actions have consequences beyond what you might imagine. The help you gave me was the beginning, but now it's time for the next step." Over the next few hours, she explained what she had in mind. She had noticed his intelligence, integrity, and work ethic, and she believed that with guidance and support, he could achieve far more than he ever thought possible. She outlined opportunities in business, education, and mentorship, paths that could lead him to financial stability, personal growth, and a broader impact on others. He listened, barely able to believe what he was hearing. It was overwhelming but also inspiring. For the first time in a long while, he felt that life had possibilities he had never allowed himself to imagine. He realized that this offer was more than just financial. It was a chance to step into a new version of himself, to grow, learn, and make a difference in ways he had never considered. She also made it clear that she wasn't offering this to him because she expected loyalty or repayment. It wasn't a transaction. It was a gift extended to someone whose character she respected. "You helped me when no one else would," she said. "You deserve this chance, and I hope you take it not just for yourself, but for the people your life will touch in the future." He nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of her words. He felt a mixture of gratitude, humility, and determination. This was more than he could have imagined, yet he knew he couldn't waste the opportunity. It was a moment that required courage and belief in himself, just as he had shown courage and kindness during the snowstorm. The following days were filled with planning. She introduced him to mentors, guides, and people who could help him take the first steps toward this new path. Each introduction was carefully thought out, designed to align with his skills and potential. He met people who inspired him, who challenged him, and who made him see that the world was full of possibilities waiting to be explored. Despite all this, she never pressured him. She allowed him to move at his own pace, to ask questions, and to make decisions for himself. Her approach was gentle but powerful, instilling confidence and encouraging him to trust his instincts. Through her guidance, he began to see his own worth in a way he never had before. He also realized that this opportunity was not just about material wealth or status. It was about growth, responsibility, and the ability to create positive change. He started to understand that the kindness he had shown in the snowstorm had created a ripple effect. One small act had led to something far greater than he could have imagined, a life-altering connection that could shape not only his future, but also the lives of many others. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, he sat quietly in his apartment, reflecting on the journey so far. He thought about the stormy night that had started it all, the shivering stranger who had needed help, and the way he had acted without thinking of reward. He realized that life sometimes placed people in the right place at the right time, and that small decisions could have enormous consequences. He looked at the letter and the card she had sent, now sitting neatly on his desk. They were symbols of trust, gratitude, and belief in his potential. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor that trust, not out of obligation, but because he wanted to live up to the opportunity he had been given. In that quiet moment, he understood something fundamental. Kindness, when genuine, was powerful. It could open doors, create connections, and change lives in ways that money or status never could. His life was no longer just ordinary. It was a story in progress, shaped by a simple act of empathy and the belief that one person's good intentions could influence the world in meaningful ways. As he prepared for the next steps, he felt both nervous and excited. He knew challenges would come, that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, and that he would need to work hard to make the most of this opportunity. But he also felt hope that his actions mattered, that his choices could make a difference, and that life could offer surprises far beyond what he had ever imagined. The snowstorm that once seemed like an obstacle had been the beginning of something extraordinary. What had started as a simple act of helping a stranger was now unfolding into a journey that could change his life forever. And for the first time in a long time, he felt ready, not just to accept the opportunity, but to embrace it fully, with an open heart and a determination to honor the trust that had been placed in him. He realized that life's most unexpected gifts often came after moments of kindness, courage, and selflessness. The storm had revealed more than danger and cold. It had revealed the power of a human connection, the strength of generosity, and the extraordinary potential that could arise when someone chose to act with compassion. And so, as he closed his eyes that night, he felt a quiet confidence. The future was unknown, yes, but it was full of promise. The woman who had once been a stranger was now a guide, a mentor, and a symbol of what could happen when kindness met opportunity. He had no way of knowing exactly where this path would lead, but he was determined to walk it with integrity, gratitude, and a sense of purpose for the first time. He truly believed that his life could change, not because someone gave him something, but because someone recognized the goodness in him and helped him see it too. The day finally came when he would meet her again, and this time, it felt different. He wasn't just going to thank her or receive a letter. He was stepping into something much larger. The envelope, the calls, the small meetings, all had led to this moment. His heart was pounding with a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and anticipation. He dressed carefully, though he tried not to overthink it. Deep down, he knew that nothing about this day would be ordinary. He arrived at the meeting location, a tall, modern building surrounded by manicured gardens. It seemed peaceful from the outside, almost like a sanctuary, but there was an unmistakable sense of importance. The receptionist greeted him warmly, and he was led into a waiting room. The walls were decorated with simple art, each piece chosen thoughtfully to create a calm, welcoming atmosphere. He could feel the energy in the room, the kind of energy that hinted at opportunity, influence, and careful planning. After a few minutes, she appeared. She looked exactly as he remembered, but there was an air of confidence now that seemed almost effortless. The way she carried herself, the calm in her eyes, and the warmth of her smile all combined to make him feel both at ease and slightly intimidated. She wasn't just a woman in need of help. She was someone who commanded respect without demanding it. "Welcome," she said softly, gesturing for him to follow. "I'm glad you could make it today." "Thank you for inviting me," he replied, feeling a little unsure of what to expect. She led him through a series of offices and meeting rooms. The building was larger than he had imagined, with spaces that seemed designed for creativity, learning, and collaboration. Along the way, he noticed the quiet professionalism of everyone they passed. People who clearly knew who she was and what she represented, yet treated him with the same respect they showed everyone else. Finally, they reached a private office with large windows that overlooked the city. She gestured for him to sit. "I wanted to talk to you here in private," she said. "There's something important you need to understand before we take the next steps." He listened closely as she began to explain. Her words were deliberate, filled with meaning, and each one carried weight. She told him about her life, about how she had worked tirelessly to build her success, and about the responsibility she felt to use her position to help others. She wasn't just wealthy. She had influence, experience, and resources that could open doors in ways he had never imagined. As he absorbed her words, he realized the truth. The woman he had helped in the snowstorm was not just an ordinary person. She was a billionaire, a person whose choices could affect countless lives, and she had chosen to extend her support to him, not because he asked, but because he had acted with genuine kindness. The realization was staggering. He had no idea, no hint that the simple act of helping her car in the snow would lead to this moment. "I wanted you to know who I am," she said, her voice calm but sincere. "Not to overwhelm you, but so you understand the scale of what's possible. The opportunity I'm offering is real, and it comes with responsibilities. It's not just about receiving help. It's about growth, trust, and the potential to make a difference." He nodded, still processing. Part of him wanted to ask questions to clarify every detail, but he realized that now was not the moment for doubt. This was a chance to step into a world he had never known, guided by someone who believed in him. She handed him a folder, neatly organized, containing information about the opportunities she was offering. There were plans for mentorship programs, educational initiatives, and business ventures. She explained each one carefully, emphasizing that he could choose the path that aligned with his goals and values. She wanted him to succeed on his own terms, not simply follow instructions or accept handouts. "What you decide now will shape the next chapter of your life," she said gently. "I'm offering guidance, connections, and resources, but the choices are yours. I trust you to make them with honesty, effort, and integrity." He took a deep breath, feeling both overwhelmed and inspired. The responsibility was immense, but so was the opportunity. For the first time in his life, he saw a future that wasn't limited by circumstances, doubts, or routine. He saw a path where his actions mattered, where his decisions could impact not just himself, but the people around him, and even the broader community. Over the next few hours, she walked him through specific steps he could take immediately. They discussed potential collaborations, projects that aligned with his interests, and strategies to develop his skills. She introduced him to a few key people, Mentors who would guide him, advisors who could offer insights, and colleagues who could help him navigate this new world. Each introduction reinforced the reality of what he was stepping into, a chance to grow, learn, and contribute in ways he had never imagined. He was amazed at her thoughtfulness. Every detail had been considered. Nothing felt rushed or forced. She had created a space where he could explore possibilities safely, make decisions with confidence, and gradually step into a life that once seemed out of reach. At one point, she paused and looked at him intently. "Do you realize what your kindness did?" she asked. "You helped me when I needed it most without asking for anything. That act told me who you really are, and that's why I wanted to help you in return. Not everyone would have acted the way you did. That's rare. That's valuable." He felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of himself as remarkable, just ordinary. Yet in her eyes, he could see that his simple act of helping her had shown a quality that mattered far more than wealth or status. It was a humbling and powerful realization. As the meeting drew to a close, she handed him a small, elegant box. "This is symbolic, not just a gift," she said. Inside was a card with instructions for the first project she wanted him to begin. It was designed to help him gain experience, confidence, and a sense of purpose. She made it clear that he could proceed at his own pace, make mistakes, and learn along the way. The focus was growth, not perfection. He left the office that day with a mix of emotions: gratitude, excitement, nervousness, and determination. He walked through the gardens surrounding the building, taking in the serene environment. The cold air felt refreshing, almost cleansing, as if it were preparing him for the journey ahead. He realized that this moment marked the beginning of something extraordinary, a turning point that would define the rest of his life. For the first time, he fully understood the power of one small act. Helping her in the snowstorm had not only saved her from a difficult situation, but it had also opened a door to a world he had never dared to imagine. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a belief that his actions truly mattered, and a commitment to honor the trust she had placed in him. He spent the evening reflecting on everything that had happened. He thought about the snowstorm, the cafe meeting, the letter, and now this incredible revelation. Life had a way of surprising him, of rewarding the choices made with honesty and compassion. He felt a quiet determination to make the most of this opportunity, not just for himself but for the people he could help in the future. That night, he sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. He felt a sense of calm and excitement intertwined, a feeling that anything was possible, that life could change in ways he had never imagined, and that the simple act of helping a stranger had brought him here. He realized that kindness, courage, and integrity were more powerful than he had ever known, capable of opening doors that no one could foresee. And as he held the card and the folder in his hands, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would not waste this opportunity. He would grow, learn, and use this gift wisely. He would honor the trust she had placed in him and strive to make a difference in ways that mattered. The snowstorm had been the beginning, but now the real journey was about to unfold. The weeks that followed were filled with change, learning, and a sense of purpose he had never known before. Every day brought new challenges but also new opportunities. With her guidance, he began to explore areas of life he had only ever imagined from a distance. There were workshops, mentoring sessions, and practical experiences designed to help him grow, not just in skill, but as a person. Each step forward felt like a discovery, and he approached it with the same care and determination he had shown that night in the snowstorm. He quickly realized that the journey wasn't about shortcuts or handouts. Nothing was given to him without effort. She wanted him to succeed because of his work, his commitment, and his integrity. It wasn't just an opportunity. It was a responsibility, and he took that responsibility seriously. At first, it was overwhelming. There were so many new people to meet, so many ideas to understand, and so many tasks that pushed him out of his comfort zone. But each time he felt uncertain, he remembered her words. "You acted with kindness without expecting anything. Let that guide your choices now." That thought kept him grounded, reminding him that integrity and honesty were as important as knowledge or skill. Slowly, he began to see results. A small project he had started under her guidance was gaining attention. It wasn't massive, but it was meaningful, and it made a tangible difference in people's lives. He felt the joy of seeing something grow because of his effort, the same way he had felt satisfaction helping her in the snowstorm. But now the impact was broader. It wasn't just one person he was helping. It was a community, people who could benefit from his ideas, energy, and dedication. As his confidence grew, he found himself thinking differently about the world. He noticed opportunities where he had once seen obstacles, solutions where he had once seen problems. The lessons she had given him weren't just about business or skill, they were about life. He learned patience, persistence, and the importance of seeing potential in people, in situations, and in himself. Each day was a lesson, each challenge a chance to grow. One afternoon she called him to her office. He entered with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness, unsure what she wanted to discuss. But when he saw her, she smiled warmly. "You've done very well," she said. "I've been watching how you handle challenges, how you treat people, and how you apply what you've learned. I'm proud of your progress." He felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you. I couldn't have done any of this without your guidance." She shook her head gently. "No, you did this. I simply provided direction. The courage, the effort, and the kindness, you brought all of that yourself. That's what matters." Her words stayed with him long after he left her office. For the first time, he truly understood that success wasn't about who offered help. It was about what you did with it. She had given him the tools, the knowledge, and the opportunity, but he had built something with his own hands, heart, and determination. Life continued to change. He started seeing his world differently. The people around him noticed a change too. His friends, his family, even colleagues. He was more patient, more thoughtful, and more proactive. The lessons he had learned under her guidance were rippling outwards, affecting others in subtle but powerful ways. It was as if the kindness he had shown that night in the snowstorm had come full circle, creating a chain reaction that touched more lives than he could have imagined. One evening, he reflected on the journey so far. He thought about the storm, the fear, and the shivering woman who had needed help. He thought about her guidance, the mentorship, and the opportunities she had given him. And he realized something profound. Life was full of moments that could change everything. Sometimes those moments were small, a single act of kindness, a choice to help without expecting anything. And yet, their impact could be enormous. He also realized that the true gift wasn't just financial support or opportunities. The real gift was the belief someone had in him, the belief that he could rise above his circumstances, that he could grow, and that he could make a difference. That belief had unlocked something inside him that he didn't know existed. It had given him courage, purpose, and the determination to embrace life fully. As months passed, his projects grew stronger. He started initiatives that helped local communities, mentored young people, and shared his experience with those who needed guidance. The satisfaction he felt from making a difference was incomparable. Every success, every smile, every grateful word reminded him why he had started this journey and how far he had come. One day, he received a personal note from her. It wasn't about business, projects, or guidance. It was simply a note to express pride in his growth and to remind him to continue living with integrity. He read it carefully, feeling the same warmth he had felt the first time she had thanked him in the diner. It was a reminder that life's most powerful connections weren't about money or status. They were about understanding, respect, and trust. He kept her note on his desk as a symbol of everything he had learned. Every time he looked at it, he remembered the snowstorm, the kindness that started it all, and the journey that had followed. He knew he had been given something rare, a chance not just to improve his own life, but to touch the lives of others in meaningful ways. And he felt a quiet responsibility to honor that gift every day. One evening, he went for a walk in the park, thinking about how far he had come. The sky was clear, the air crisp, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. He realized that life had given him an extraordinary lesson. Small acts of kindness could lead to monumental changes. Helping a stranger had not only affected her life, but it had also transformed his own. As he walked, he noticed people around him, children playing, couples chatting, and neighbors greeting each other. He thought about how his actions, inspired by one single choice, were now part of a larger ripple. Each person he helped, each project he started, and each connection he nurtured was a continuation of the chain that began with the snowstorm. It was proof that compassion and integrity mattered more than he had ever realized. That night, he reflected on the journey with gratitude. He thought about fear, hesitation, courage, and kindness. He thought about the snowstorm, the envelope, the mentorship, and the opportunities that had followed. He realized that life's most powerful moments often came unexpectedly, and that embracing them required faith, effort, and heart. He also understood that success wasn't measured solely by wealth or recognition, but by the impact one had on others. The projects he led, the guidance he offered, and the inspiration he shared were all part of something greater than himself. He felt fulfilled, not because of material gain, but because he had become someone who could make a meaningful difference. In the months and years that followed, his life continued to flourish. He remained humble, grounded, and focused on helping others. The lessons he had learned under her guidance became principles he lived by: kindness, integrity, effort, and belief in the potential of others. And he never forgot the snowstorm, the night that started it all, or the woman who had trusted him enough to offer a life-changing gift. Looking back, he realized that the story wasn't just about opportunity, it was about character. It was about how a single act of kindness could set off a chain of events that changed lives, including his own. It was a reminder that every choice mattered, every gesture had weight, and that true generosity and compassion could create extraordinary outcomes. And as he lay down to rest that night, he felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. The snowstorm, the stranger, and the unexpected gift had transformed him in ways he never could have imagined. His life was richer, not only in opportunities but in purpose, connection, and meaning. He knew that he had been given more than just guidance or resources. He had been shown the true power of human kindness, and he carried that lesson with him in every step of his journey. The snowstorm had ended long ago, but its impact had lasted a lifetime. What began as a simple act of helping a stranger had turned into a life full of hope, opportunity, and the ability to make a real difference. And in the end, he realized the most important lesson of all: genuine kindness, when offered without expectation, could change lives in ways far beyond imagination.